Alrighty, welcome back to my channel, May Between the Pages. My name is Taylor, and today we are going to be talking about my winter, or really my January-February, TBR. Did I put a winter hat on inside to one, match the theme, and to try to make a slight difference in my outfit while I batch film? Maybe, maybe not. Mind your business. So one of my main goals for the first half of 2025 is to read as many of my physical books that I have with me in Japan as possible, because my husband, Hayato, and I will be moving to the States in May. So that means that all of these lovely words behind me will be packed up securely, God willing, securely, in boxes and be sent across the world, which is going to take several months. So I won't have access to this library or the library of his manga that we have here while in the States for the first couple months we're there. So I want to read as many of the physical books that I have here before that takes place. So with that in mind, let's see what I've selected. The first one is Wind and Truth by Brando Sando. I finished my reread of the Stormlight Archive in preparation for this book, or I'm finishing it actually currently, which we'll talk about in a minute, and I can't wait to read this. It is huge, as all Stormlight installments are, so the fact that I have quite a few other books on TBR at the same time as this book is quite delusional, I believe, but here we are living in our delusion. I do want to finish this hopefully in January. Also, just a note, this came to me so beat up, like Blackwell's. Can we not do this again? It was completely bent. I'm in the process of bending it back over. The bottom was also completely bent when it came to me. It's just like, I know it seems small, but this is not cheap to get shipped to me in Japan, and I specifically collect these covers of the Stormlight Archive, and I paid a pretty penny to get my hand on the first couple when they went out of print, so it's just kind of, this is important to me, okay? It's aesthetic and it's vain, but it's important to me. It really sucks that it came all beat up. It's also not folded correctly. Anyway, I'm gonna try to fix this. When I take the dust jacket off to actually read the book, I hope to kind of press the dust jacket and see if I can get it to act right. So anyway, that's an aside, but I can't wait to see what's between these beat up pages. And what I'm currently reading right now, I was hoping to finish this in 2024, but it is my first read of 2025, and that is Dawn Shard. This is the last book in my reread before I get into Wind and Truth. There are two reread vlogs for this where I go very in-depth on my thoughts on all of the installments in the Stormlight Archive so far. The first one is already out, and it covers The Way of Kings, Words of Radiance, and Edge Dancer, and then the second one will cover Rhythm of War, Oathbringer, Rhythm of War, and Dawn Shard. So I will hope to finish this today, actually. I'm not that far into it, but this is one of my favorite installments in the entire Cosmere. Spoiler alert. And I read it in like one sitting the first time, so I'm planning to blow through this and enjoy every second of it today. And hopefully you can get the second vlog out not too long after this video. The first one will be linked down below if you're interested. Next, we have a book that I have read the first chapter of because this was the last selection for the Only Good Book Club, the private book club that I'm a part of at the end of 2024. I think we chose this in October, and I completely dropped the ball on this and did not read it, and that is Sons of Darkness. I really want to read this, but I haven't. And I think pretty much everyone else petered out as well. It wasn't the book's fault. I think we were just all so busy at the end of last year that we just couldn't keep up with the book club. So we all plan to kind of coalesce again at the beginning of this year and kind of take a fresh approach to the book club. So I don't know if we're going to continue with this book or not. I think everyone did want to read it. So even if we don't, though, I really liked what I read in the first chapter. So I'm hoping to get to this one. Another chonky one. Like I said, we're delusional, but live with me in this delusional space for a little while, please. Next, we have Falling in Love with Hominids by Nalo Hopkinson. This is a collection of short stories, and I have wanted to read Hopkinson for ages. I picked this up when I was in Glasgow. Something about the cover just spoke to me. I've been in my short story, short fiction era for the last year and a half, and I'm still in it. I'm still loving it. I don't think it's an era anymore. I think I just like short fiction and short stories now. This just needs to be accepted as part of my personality, I think, at this point. So I'm very excited to get to this. How many short stories are in here? It looks like there are 20 short stories in here, yes. And it's not that thick, so I feel like this is something that's definitely doable, and it'll be a nice break from the really big epic fantasies. The next one is another one I also picked up on my Glasgow trip, but this one was in Goldsboro in London. I picked this up completely on a whim. I knew nothing about it. It was shiny. The foiling got me. It's called A Woman of Opinion. It's a historical fantasy, I believe, and it's about a woman whose husband, I think, is a very important diplomat, and she's kind of overlooked. So it's talking about how she makes sure that she is no longer overlooked in that space. Sounds like something that's different from what I've been reading in the past couple years. A little bit more YA leaning, it sounds like. I don't know if it's YA. Clearly, I haven't done any research on this, okay? I'm going into it completely blind. But it was pretty, and I went for it. I hope I end up liking it because it wasn't cheap. But we'll see. I'll let you guys know. This next one I have really high hopes for, though, and that is Hortari. This is by the artist who did the artwork for the Folio Society edition for Howl's Moving Castle. I talked about meeting her a lot in the vlogs surrounding Glasgow. I just didn't expect to meet her there, and I love her art. And she had a couple of individual art collections, as well as this book here, which is called Forgotten Explorers and Seekers, Hortari. And I didn't say her name. It's Marie Alice Harrell, if I didn't. And essentially, when she was doing research on different explorers, she found a couple that she thought were overlooked and didn't have their proper place in the history books. So she gives their name and a summary of what they did, as well as some artwork to match them, which I think is just so cool. The concept is amazing, and I love her art, so it's a way to engage with her art. And also learn something at the same time. So I am very excited to get to this. I think it's going to be a much quicker read, but I'd like to take my time with it, even though I think I could blow through it, and just kind of soak in the atmosphere and the art of it. Here are the end pages. Just gives like explorer vibes. I don't know. Everything about this book just calls to me. So I definitely am going to get to this one before I have to wrap it up. Next is The Invisible Man. So we're going a little sci-fi here. Honestly, I picked this for the TBR because it's short. I feel like I could read it quite quickly. I know this is a very influential work, and I think what this is about is a man who finds that he can turn invisible, and then, while it's all fun and games at the beginning, throughout the process of this experience, slowly starts to go insane because he can't interact with the world like he used to be able to. So it sounds like it could be deceptively heavy, although the back of this does say that there's like a dark thread of humor throughout the whole thing, which I tend to really enjoy. So that's dramatic. One person that I know said this was one of their favorite books, and I saw it in the Barnes & Noble near my house when I was back in the States earlier in 2024, and since it was small and easy to travel with, I picked it up. So I figure might as well put this on the MBR, the TBR for winter, and see if it strikes my fancy. I have two other books on this TBR that are a secret. Unless you're a patron, then you know what these are, but this is part of a reread vlog that I have been working on forever, because halfway through this reread vlog, I decided to start doing a Stormlight reread, which took over the other books that I was reading for this project. So we're gonna get back to this project once the Stormlight reread is finished, which would actually be today if I finished Dawn Shard today. And we'll get back to our regularly scheduled program of rereading some favorites. So let me know in the comments down below what books you think I'm gonna pick for this. There are two on this TBR here. And I do own them both physically, so that's a nice hint. One of my other goals for 2025 is to finish all of my currently reading books on Goodreads, because there's an embarrassing number. And one of the books that I kind of petered out of reading, it just wasn't working for me at the time, but I don't think it was the fault of the book. I think I just wasn't in the mood for classic fantasy, and that is Of Darkness and Light, which is the second full installment, yes, in Ryan Cahill's series. I can't think of the name right now, The Bound and the Broken. So I don't have this one physically, but I'll just hold up this beautiful Broken Binding edition, press edition of the fall while I talk about it, because it's an excuse to show off this book. The Fall is one of my favorite fantasy novellas I have ever read. This is a stunning story here. It looks at this big battle, well, the fall of one of the civilizations in this world from different perspectives. Each different perspective on the battle is so intentional and gives you a different piece of information that allows you to kind of piece together the history that led to this point. But in no way is the world building info dumpy. You get all of it through the experience of the battle. It's just so well done. The first book in the installment of Blood and Fire was a 3.5 4-star for me. Kind of cozy feeling to it, very much. I know this story, I kind of know this fantasy setting, but it had a modern twist to it, so I did enjoy myself. And then I read this book and was like, oh, holy shit, okay, Cahill, all right, I see you, I see what you're doing. And then the second book kind of goes back to that like slower paced, I kind of know this setting fantasy world. And there were some aspects to it that were different, but I just wasn't really, I think, in the mood for that kind of read. So I ended up petering out of reading it. It's not a DNF though. I just felt like it wasn't really matching me at the time. But I do remember a lot of the major plot points, which means I think that I was taking it in a lot more than I thought I was at the time. So I would like to get back to Of Darkness and Light and finish out that book to see if I would like to continue buying all of the Broken Binding Press editions, because they are stunning. And I really hope that I enjoy the rest of the series as much as I loved The Fall, because I would love to have, you know, something this beautiful all the way through. I have a couple manga here. The first here is the second installment of Kiseiju, which is Parasite. This is Hayato's favorite manga out of the hundreds he's read. He's been wanting me to read it for years. I'm finally doing it, so I would like to continue this one. I also have Fruits Basket Another. I read the first of this kind of spin-off Fruits Basket series. It brought me so much joy. I just never picked up the second one. Couldn't tell you why, so I'd like to continue with that. And the same for Monster Volume 2. Read the first one. Blew my mind. I had read it when I was too young to really appreciate this series. Could not stop reading. So I have the second and third installment. Would like to continue with the second one. I also am a Spiffbo judge, and it is now in the finalist section of Spiffbo, so I do have to slowly make my way through my Spiffbo reads, but I don't talk about those until after the official review is out on Before We Go blog, so you'll hear more about those later. That concludes my winter TBR. MBR? MBR is more realistic, I think. Let's chat in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click that bell. I'd love to have you as part of this community, and I appreciate it. But for now, I'm gonna head out. Johnny!